Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are getting up and feeling great out there, feeling aware, weather aware, as we have a very active next 24 to 48 hours across a large portion of the country. And that's what we're here for this morning, to give you one really last good update for what's going to happen really over the next 24 hours. And we'll talk about Wednesday in this video too, as we have unfortunately uptrended. It always seems like the day after the big event always uptrends, and that has already been the case. We have a huge enhanced risk and a huge 10% hatch risk for tornadoes, and we'll talk about that too, and we'll get much more detailed on that tonight. But we need to focus in a lot on what could potentially happen today into tonight. So that's what we'll do here. So appreciate all the support, appreciate all the nice comments. You guys have been awesome, and just welcome to any new people who have subscribed and watch the content. It's a family-like atmosphere here. We look out for one another, and we're certainly trying to keep you guys ahead of the storm out here. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that, and so others can too. And I promise you there's a lot of other people that will pray for you too and look out for one another. We all look out for one another here, and more importantly, God looks out for you. So let's get rolling this morning. There's a lot to cover. It's going to be kind of the same video kind of run through as we've been doing over the last couple days, but of course we're going to add tomorrow into this too. So but check out what's going on, and quick reminder, guys, some of this information can change and probably will change. A lot of times on the day of the events, just like we did last Friday, we had some changes about 2 hours after I dropped the video. So I will have those updated changes and the links to them changes to the Storm Prediction Center site below the video, and I'll put it in the community post. So there will be some changes in some of the information you see as far as the risk area. So right now, huge upper trough digging into the west. You can see kind of the bending of the jet stream. Low pressure is already cranked up. It's beginning to strengthen and move very slowly, and will do so across this section of the country. We have blizzard conditions that will really ramp up later this afternoon, where it's already snowing very heavy, but along with the heavy snow, you're going to get strong winds. You already got a little convection firing off in Illinois, northern Illinois into Indiana, but that's not a big deal. You can see a huge plume of moisture. Wherever you see more white on your screen, that's a higher water vapor in the atmosphere, just basically more humid air. Not necessarily super humid air, but just basically where there's just more moisture in the atmosphere. So this will continue to surge northward along a warm front that will surge out ahead of this trailing cold front with a low pressure scooting by. Watches and warnings, not a ton of changes from last night. You have ice storm warnings for northern Wisconsin, and you have some ice storm warnings for the eastern areas of the UP and Michigan, and then winter storm warnings up for a large portion of northern Minnesota, and some blizzard warnings up, several blizzard warnings up for the far western counties of northern Minnesota, and then of course the Dakotas under blizzard warnings. Red flag warnings down here in the pink color, where you got red flag warnings, high wind warnings, just a lot of wind alerts. Please do not light anything down here, and anything that has to do with a spark or fire, you're liable to cause a brush fire very quickly. Reed Timmer posted last night, I think, heading north, where he already saw a pretty large brush fire in eastern Kansas. So it's almost inevitably going to happen today, but please do not throw a cigarette butt outside or anything in this region. It is very dry, and there's no moisture expected from the system today in this region. So very, very dry air and very windy. So let's talk about the severe weather event. To moderate risk, nothing has changed. This is as of the update about 3 or 4 hours ago. Another update comes about literally an hour and a half, 2 hours after I dropped this video normally. And we had a huge changes throughout the day Friday before our severe weather event kicked up. But right now, to moderate risk. If anybody's going to see a slight risk, a high risk, I would think it's a very small section right into here today, where I'm expecting a violent tornado to be. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I typically don't try to talk that confident on something that we don't know for sure on, but just some nasty storms showing up on some short range models. But moderate risk here, moderate risk here. Southern and northern mode, bimodal mode. Enhanced risk surrounds these two moderate risks, slight risk around it, and the dark green is the marginal risk. Okay, so let's go on and zone into these areas. Moderate risk that includes areas like Davenport, Iowa City, Waterloo. It includes Clinton, Cedar Rapids, not quite to Peoria, not quite down to Quincy, but, Burlington, and includes you guys, and I'm expecting some powerful supercells to ride this Iowa, Illinois, even starting in northeast Missouri, but this state line right into here. But enhanced risk that does include southern Wisconsin, which I'm expecting some gnarly, in all the wrong ways, weather today, a little bit later this evening into southern Wisconsin, maybe as far north as Madison, Janesville, places like that. Maybe even some nasty storms into Milwaukee. But St. Louis, in this area in between, this is a big wild card. You're going to be capped most of the day, and you're kind of stuck in between two modes. The one down here, which we'll talk about, this is more of the later evening overnight threat. This is more of the late afternoon evening threat here. So St. Louis and all these in Columbia, Missouri, places down here, you might, Pittsfield, Bowling Green, Jacksonville, Beardstown or Beardston, you guys could potentially, you are under the risk for enhanced severe weather, but you might not even get a drop of rain today. Okay, the tornado threat has not changed from last night. As of 6:29 Eastern time, 5:29 out here where the severe storms will be, you have a 15% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. I'm going to try to not repeat that over and over again. It wastes time. But anytime I say there's a risk, it always is followed by with a 25 miles in any given location or any given point. So in the red, you got the 15% risk, the yellow, the 10% risk, and the brown, the 5% risk, and the green is a 2%. So you also have the black outline area, which is also on its own a 10% risk of a stronger tornado pushing EF2 or higher. That is its own risk. It doesn't add on to, say, the 15% risk in the red. It is its own risk kind of category, if you will. So you have the 15% risk of that. So we need to watch out for strong tornadoes, especially right into here today. Hail threat will be high up here. You got the cold and dry air punch aloft with the trailing cold front behind this low pressure. And sure enough, you are going to run the risk. I don't know why this white thing popped up. That's pretty cool. But anyways, you got the 30% risk of hail pushing 1 inch of diameter within 25 miles in a given location. In the yellow area, which is a 15% risk of hail pushing 1 inch or diameter. The hatch risk you see here, that is a 10% risk, remember, on its own, of hail pushing 2 inch or diameter and larger. So there is a chance for large hail almost for a good portion of this entire setup. Wind, there is going to be a chance for some damaging winds. The red that you see here, that is a 30% chance to see damaging winds or winds pushing 50 knots or higher. It's around 55 to 60 miles per hour and mile per hour readings within 25 miles of any given location. The yellow is the 15% risk of the same criteria. Okay, so let's go down to the southern mode. So you have a moderate risk down here, but I'm going to let you guys know that this is more so for late evening. I'm talking about after you put the kids down for bed. This is more so for a nocturnal threat, and there is definitely some questions with this mode. Okay, this event has a high ceiling but a low floor, meaning it could bust in the worst way possible, or it can bust in the low case possible, if that makes sense. So low meaning, we don't have an outbreak of severe storms. High meaning we have something like we saw Friday. The ingredients are there. It's just that capping mechanism, that warm air loft that's going to prevent storm development. But you got a moderate risk down here. You might as well say that it's, for the Fort Smith area, Fayetteville, even though you're technically in the enhanced risk. This goes right over the Ozarks, Russellville, probably barely includes Conway, you folks in Harrison, Yaleville, Mountain Home, Marshall, all these higher elevation regions, kind of hills, Huntsville, Berryville, you guys are under a moderate risk of severe storms all the way to Mena, Waldron, Boonville, Mansfield, moderate risk of severe storms a day, enhanced risk around it, and slight risk that goes all the way into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tornado risk today, same thing as the northern mode. In this moderate risk, you have a 15% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. And you have a 10% risk, which goes now all the way up to St. Louis and extends all the way into northeast portions of Texas. This does include Little Rock. This includes Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Almost includes Jonesboro. And Texarkana and Arkansas and Texas. includes this entire area, in these areas of the Red River on the eastern side. So please be aware of this. Foreman, DeQueen, New Boston. I'm mentioning all these small towns. Ashdown, Ashton, Fulton, Hope. You guys need to watch out overnight tonight. This is going to be more so overnight tonight. Hail threat. You have a risk of large hail down here, but not as high of a risk in hail as in general, but a 15% risk of hail, but also a hatch risk in this black outline region right here of large hail, pushing 2-inch diameter or larger within 25 miles in a given location. This does go down all the way into Texas, okay? So please watch out for some nasty storms that could get developed late evening into the overnight hours, even down here into Texas, okay? And there is a tornado risk down here too. Okay, a little bit of a risk in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but really once you work your way east and northeast, that's when the risk is the worst for this region down here. So let's go on and break it down. This is a more broad look. Snowing like crazy in South Dakota, and this will begin to spread into North Dakota. Big time blizzard conditions. Crazy, early April blizzard. This is historic. I'll be interested to see how much snow these areas get. This is not being talked about as much in the weather world due to the fact of this severe weather, and a lot of people are on high alert. But what immediately comes to mind when I see this is we're at 3 p.m. and I want to remind you guys, I need to always remind y'all, if I forget to mention a time frame, look over here. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So back it up 1 hour because most of this storm is going to be in Central Time today. So back this up 1 hour. So we're at 3 p.m. And I know it's hard to see on your screen. A lot of people, say, why don't you edit towns into states? Why don't you edit time frames? That takes a lot of time. A lot of people want me to put captions in here. You literally have to spend probably a few hours editing it. And you guys know, and I'm not trying to ask you guys to feel sorry for me. That's the last thing I want to do. But I work a full-time job. I got a family, and I already spend a wild amount of time on these videos. So it's almost impossible to spend any more time editing these videos. It really is, guys. It's very difficult. I already wake up at about 3:30 in the morning. And then I go to sleep at about 8:39 just to try to answer all the comments and to prepare this video. But like I said, I don't want you guys to feel, it's not, I'm trying to get sympathy. It's just, I want you guys to know that I'm strapped for time. And that's why the setup isn't as great as I would like it to be. But God willing, maybe in the future. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Here we go. We're getting into time. Bang, around 7 p.m., this is when you start to see some storms. And now a little bit of storm activity showing up in northern Iowa. That's why they left. That is why they left the enhanced risk pretty far west into Des Moines, Ames, because now you're seeing disruptive storms developing further west into Iowa. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because we're going to zoom in on Iowa. And then bang, I mean, look at this. Look at these nasty storms now trending into southern Wisconsin. I mean, look at these storms up here and riding the Wisconsin-Minnesota state line. And then, you're wondering, where's the storms down here? Where, like I said, the atmosphere is capped. And then the explosive storms develop down here a little bit later tonight. I mean, I'm talking about tonight, like 2 a.m. tonight. So there's going to be a nocturnal tornado threat down here on the southern mode. So please, if you're going throughout your day today, just because you don't see anything happen during the day, like in Arkansas, like you did last Friday, that does not mean the event was a bust and all the weather people got it wrong. There's a lot more that goes into this besides just it storming at night and day, and is it going to storm at my house? So we'll start this off around 7 a.m. Remember, we'll talk about Iowa first. 7 a.m. I know it says 8, but back it up 1 hour because we're in Central Time. We'll get this going. Maybe some storm development in eastern Iowa right off the dot. We'll see how this gets going. And if you see me look down, it's because I'm looking at Google Maps because, like I said, in earlier videos, I want to mention certain towns and communities. But these storms fire up. They could be elevated in nature. Just remember that. Is some of these storms you see that look really bad, they're elevated. They're meaning they're not really taking advantage. I'm sorry, they're surface. So they're not really taking advantage of really all the atmospheric players on the field here, but they eventually will as this warm front rides north. But we're at 3 p.m. at this point. You're thinking, oh, where's all the crazy weather, Mitch? Well, you keep going. We're getting into about 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and then bang. Look at this storm that develops north of Ames, near Mason City, places like that. You know, this, you got to watch this storm. It could produce large hail. I think this is a little bit too far north to produce a tornado threat, but you never know. Some storms start firing up out here in eastern Iowa, near Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Williamsburg, Washington. Watch out these areas as you're around 7 p.m. And then you start to get to close. I mean, it's getting to the 8 p.m. time frame. The sun's beginning to set. It's getting dark outside. And look at the difference between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Explosive thunderstorms develop, you know, around Des Moines or just east of Des Moines and Ames, and then begin to track across the rest of Iowa. And this is where the damaging wind threat and embedded tornadoes can be in this area. And look at these storms in eastern Iowa. These could be supercell in nature. So this is around 8 p.m. So you got storms exploding just, I would say just east of Des Moines. And then watch out around Clinton, Davenport, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids. I know DeWitt, all these areas right here in eastern Iowa need to watch out. Burlington down here. These storms explode virtually almost out of nowhere. And I know you don't see anything down here. We'll talk about Missouri in a second. I know you don't see anything down here in Missouri, but there could be storms. In fact, the NAM shows storms developing in northeast Missouri. So, everything you see on here isn't concrete what's going to happen. These are just evolving models trying to figure out what's going to happen today. But we keep this rolling, guys, and then the storms continue throughout the late evening hours. And then I think you could get some more storm development here in southeast Iowa, maybe into the wee hours of the morning. But I think mainly the threat is over after this. So we look at the significant tornado parameter, really builds in. There's a warm front. You can tell where the warm front is. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Basically along and just south, along basically where you see nothing into here with a significant tornado parameter and a lot down here. This is the warm front boundary that builds in throughout the morning and then the afternoon hours. And then this is what you call the triple point, basically where all the dynamics meet at one point, kinematic and thermodynamic wise. So I would bet that there is a big time supercell a little bit further west, and the models are showing right around this triple point. Watch out around Des Moines, Ames, but I really think that it's almost a given that we're going to have some powerful storms later this afternoon and this evening here. Significant tornado parameter reaches like an 18, which please don't think that that means there's a 100% chance your backyard is going to see a tornado. It just means that there's environmental players on the field for tornadic activity. That's the way I always like to explain it. But I mean, you're getting into late this evening, 9, 10 p.m. The entire eastern and southeastern quadrant of Iowa continues to have a high risk for some nasty storms that could produce a tornado. You look at the updraft velocity swath, and we're going to have to continue to switch it back to 06Z here, but the updraft velocity swath through the duration of the event, I mean, look at this. This isn't kind of new. It's a little bit further west now, in Iowa. And, anywhere where you see kind of the yellows, the streaks of yellows and the reds, that's where the model is trying to figure out where a rotating thunderstorm could be, which is a supercell, a rotating storm. But really, look at this area right into here, right around the Davenport area, and surrounding regions, Waterloo. Watch out over here. But this is really where it's showing. I think there's going to be a supercell, one lone or two lone supercells that we really need to watch that can produce a wedge tornado like they did in Iowa the other day. So let's talk about Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin can be in for a rocky late evening. We could have some storms that kind of move through the area that will turn into freezing rain, sleet, and snow into northern Wisconsin. This will provide probably around the snow up here in northern Wisconsin to the UP of Michigan, and then sometime this afternoon around and just south of Milwaukee, you guys could definitely, Burlington, Milwaukee, Twin Lakes, Whitewater, Elkhorn, you guys could certainly see some nasty storms right into this area and far southeast Wisconsin into the afternoon. But this isn't the main event. Okay, and these storms turn into some heavy snow, freezing rain and sleet up here in northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan sometime later this afternoon. Then you have an opening, right? And then here comes those explosive storms I just talked about in Iowa. They begin to move into southwest Wisconsin, Platteville, Dodgeville, areas like that. Dickeyville, Cuba City, Lancaster, or Lancaster. Down here in South Carolina, we have a Lancaster too. Some people pronounce it Lancaster, some Lancaster. Anyways, some powerful storms begin to enter the southwest portion of the state of Wisconsin. And large hail, a tornado threat, and damaging winds is with this. And you have to watch out for some lone supercells that move into this portion of the state. And really what's blowing my mind is, look at these cells into eastern and southeastern Minnesota. It's like and I want to mention, these probably won't have a big threat of a tornado, but these could produce some large hail up here, a lot of cold air aloft, okay, and just enough oomph to the atmosphere for thunderstorm. But I mean, you take it to about 10 p.m., Janesville, Madison, and I think just around Madison and just north, the atmosphere certainly stabilizes enough for us to just have some, just some storms that really aren't producing a severe threat. Hail is possible, but I think in these far southwest and southern counties of Wisconsin, you need to watch out later this evening. Okay, but look at this freezing rain event ongoing in northern Wisconsin, like Duluth. Watch out for some nasty freezing rain into the UP of Michigan, and watch out these little cells right here. It depends on how far north the warm front meets. If the warm front comes up from the south, winds shift immediately out of the south, some more moist air moves in, and then the environment destabilizes. So how far north does this make it? That's a big question. So you continue, and you could have a rocky late night for Green Bay, but once you start to get up into this area, just some rumbles of thunder, some lightning, and some heavy rain certainly looks to be the case. And then you get into tomorrow, and I think it's about over after that. A significant tornado parameter in this region. Like I said, where this is the warm front, how far north does it get? It does show it as we're getting into the late evening hours, making it into the far southern counties of the state of Wisconsin. So, once you can tell where the boundary is. You got a warm front riding in from the south ahead of the cold front, and everybody along and just south of that boundary could have a tornado threat, and all other hazards also. How far north does it rise? It just depends. But you certainly need to watch out. I mean, look into Michigan tomorrow. We'll talk about that here in a second. But the updraft helicity swaths right here. Look, it even has some tracks pretty far north. It's wanting to, show the possibility of some spinning storms all the way up to the Green Bay area. But, don't look at this as an exact thing. Just look at this and say, hey, some of these storms in the southern portion of Wisconsin could be spinning, which means you could have a tornado. So far southern counties of Wisconsin, Janesville, Milwaukee Point South, and all these other communities I just mentioned, please be aware of a tornado threat. South Wayne, Monroe, Darlington, Shullsburg certainly could have a tornado threat in this region. Let's talk about Illinois and Missouri. Okay, not going to talk about Indiana yet. All right, so hold tight for you folks. A lot of people view from Indiana, and I really appreciate y'all, but I promise y'all I will not leave y'all hanging on what's to come. We're getting into this morning, later this morning, getting into the afternoon. Quick reminder, time frame right in here. Back it up 1 hour. It clears out. We're at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Nothing is going on potentially in Missouri and Illinois. And you're thinking, wow, this was some severe weather event we had. But please do not let your guard down. We get to 7 p.m. and I know it's showing no storms in this region right into here, Missouri and Illinois. But I'm telling you, there could be some storms right into this area right here that forms and then tracks, well, probably more so like this, well, without the curve. But anyways, I'm getting distracted here. But they're going to track into this area and then into Wisconsin. So please, just because you don't see any storms on this, that doesn't mean anything. We could definitely have storm development in this region. Now, once you get down to St. Louis, Columbia, Missouri, and all these sections of like Southwest Illinois, Springfield, Belleville, Mount Vernon, Quincy, you guys are under an enhanced risk, but that doesn't mean you can get any storms today, during the day at least. But you continue to keep this rolling. I mean, at this point, you're at 9 p.m., not a whole lot going on, but then some storms develop around 11 p.m., midnight tonight. And I can tell you right off the dot, that's why you have a 15% risk of a tornado that gets all the way into southern Missouri. Even though nothing is showing up, even though even though this doesn't look scary or anything, this cell right here in southern Missouri, please watch out. It could produce a tornado. And, this is the mountain, kind of the Mountain Grove area, West Plains, Mountain View, Houston, Van Buren. You guys need to watch out here. All these communities, everybody, if your local people was saying there's a risk of a tornado today, I know a lot of people love to comment, you're better than the local weather people. And man, that I could tell you, that means the world to me. It makes me smile every time I read it. But just know that they can't get as detailed as I can. They have a job on TV, and a lot of times, them people only get 4, 5, 6 minutes to talk about the weather, maybe a little bit more during events like this. So they really can't get super detailed on the whys and ifs and who's and things like that. So I got all the time in the world if I want it. So that's why I make 40, 45-minute videos during these huge events. So just remember that, guys. Cut them some slack. I can assure you, if they went to school, got the degree, they're giving their all. I can tell you that. But watch out. St. Louis right into here. Okay, this is when you watch for the nocturnal threat. These storms begin to develop. At this point, it's 1 a.m. Okay, Sullivan, Owensville, Washington, Chesterfield, St. Louis, Farmington, all these areas just after midnight. These storms could produce any hazards. Okay, they continue to form, and then we watch for the trailing cold front. And how intense is this line of storms going to be around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning that works its way through western sections of Missouri into central Missouri? That's a big question. And any storms out ahead of this, it's 4 o'clock in the morning at this point, could be producing an early morning tornado threat. Have a way to get alerts in this region. And I know I haven't mentioned Illinois a lot, but these storms right in here can produce 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You're starting to get some storms working their way into south central sections of Illinois, Champaign, even up to Bloomington. Watch out. Shelbyville, Mattoon, Taylorsville, Litchfield, Springfield. Please watch out. All these regions later tonight. And then we're starting to get into tomorrow, and then this becomes its own threat. And we'll break down tomorrow a lot better tonight, and we'll do it in this video, but we get even more detail tonight. Stay tuned. I know a lot of people will be going live, but I'm going to continue to do my part here and keep us ahead of it. And I'm going to give you an update on what's going on tomorrow, because I think tomorrow could uptrend to a moderate risk, but we're still focusing on the day. This morning, we already had the significant tornado parameter building. Basically, this you watch this one front build out in north into Missouri, into Iowa. The atmosphere chills out, and it's because you have the cap in place. Okay, so you got such a stout area of warm air loft that even the storm prediction, even the significant tornado parameter is really picking up on this, that you're just not going to get any storm development in this region later this afternoon. So don't expect widespread storms like you did Friday in this region. But as we get a little bit later into the evening, this is when it can get significant in this region. At this point, we're late night, around midnight, significant tornado parameter begins to get really high, and the ingredients begin to really max out across Missouri and then into Illinois, even as we're waking up tomorrow. The updraft felicity swath in this region throughout the entirety of the events. Like I said, not a ton of action right in this region of western, southwestern Illinois, Missouri. But that doesn't mean anything. For example, it's picking up on that cell I talked about just outside of St. Louis and takes it really close to going through St. Louis into the overnight hours. Illinois, not a huge event, but please watch out later tonight, and then watch out for you folks in northern Illinois a little bit later this afternoon. And that's one thing I didn't really talk about much, but these storms in northern Illinois, they could be right into here, okay? And I should have talked about this a little bit more right in the beginning. But for example, if I look at the latest HRRR model, okay, it's really liking a storm right here in extreme northwest Illinois, right around when the sun's setting. I'm talking about you folks. And watch out, Freeport, Savannah, Stockton, Elizabeth, Warren, Galena, Mount Carroll, all these communities right up here in extreme northwest Illinois. Even watch out for Rockford, okay? I think there's going to be a powerful supercell later this afternoon into this evening, really this evening, in this region that could produce a monster storm. And let me tell you, I'm telling you guys now, this evening, there could be some storms into this area also. So just because you don't see anything on the screen, just like over here, okay, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Okay, so please be aware of that. We'll keep rolling. We already talked about this. And yeah, so that's the risk. And you know, I want to note down here. We still got to talk about. I'm all over the place, guys. I apologize. Let's talk about Arkansas and surrounding regions. Like I said, for Arkansas today, you have a moderate risk. But let me get a sip of drink. Excuse me. But just because you don't have storms in the middle of the afternoon, even around dinner time tonight, please don't let your guard down. Please don't think to yourself, oh, well, they got it wrong. Please, I beg you, it could cost you your life. It really could. I mean, or just a life-changing experience in all the worst ways possible. We get into 7, 8, 9 p.m. Still not a lot going on. Maybe some convection firing up in northern Arkansas, central Arkansas, but not a whole lot. We're getting to about midnight. We already talked about this cell, but this could very well develop down here. Then we keep going. And at this point, we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're getting some storms developing just north and northeast of Fort Smith, kind of around the Ozark area, and then bang, 4 o'clock in the morning. This is when we have to watch out for these cells here in northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, all the communities down here. You know, I would certainly watch out if Oklahoma-wise, definitely the Texarkana area, Broken Bow, Idabel, Haworth. I probably did not pronounce that right, but I'm giving it my best shot, guys. Watch out this entire area and southeast Oklahoma. Storms will literally fire just suddenly into the wee hours of the morning, and these could produce large hail. And then in this line of storms, there could be embedded tornadoes. We're getting into 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, okay? But all the way up to tomorrow morning, you're still technically in the day one risk area. So I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why isn't there a moderate risk for Wednesday? Well, technically, this goes all the way through tomorrow morning, day one, for Tuesday, technically. Tuesday, that's why they say Tuesday into Wednesday. But you could be waking up to an embedded tornado threat with these lines. But like I said, the models throughout the day, and this is at 7 a.m. tomorrow, the models throughout the day could trend to a more of a supercell look in this region. It's something we need to watch, but there's also a chance that not really anything gets going into here. That's why I really think Wednesday is uptrending. There's a chance that Wednesday might be worse than today. And I know I keep jumping the gun and talking about Wednesday, but it's really, I'm worried about Wednesday now. But we're getting into to this afternoon, and then we get into this evening. And I'm telling you, this is when the ingredients, after midnight, for southeast and eastern areas of Oklahoma, areas of Arkansas, northeast Texas, this is when the ingredients become prime for a tornado. Anything that gets going, okay, will have the chance to produce a tornado. And of course, we got the hail threat. But the updraft Felicity swath, you know, a lot of this showing up is really gets going tomorrow morning. But you even got some areas down here in southwest Arkansas that do show the risk of a tornado. But I mean, look at this area into northern Mississippi as we're getting into tomorrow. So we really need to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow too. So. But this could be this is a tricky event. It's a tricky forecast. I think it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And there is a risk that not a whole lot happens this time. This event is a lot different than the last event. And the biggest one is the cap in place and just lack of widespread severe storms. Friday was incredible in all the bad ways for just widespread severe storms. Let's talk about tomorrow, and I promise you guys, we will get much more detailed. We're going to get pretty detailed in this, but we'll get much more detailed tonight because I do think it warrants being detailed. Huge enhanced risk. And I can tell you down here to the south, this is for tomorrow morning into early tomorrow afternoon. But enhanced risk now including for Nashville, Louisville, Evansville, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, some Chicago, some pretty highly populated areas, guys. So this is going to be a big deal tomorrow. So we zone into these regions. This is the risk threat tomorrow. You have a 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location, including a 10% risk of a hatch tornado in big cities like Chicago, Indianapolis. You got Toledo, and that's not a big city, but you get what I'm saying. Detroit. You have the risk that also extends into Cleveland pretty much. There's a tornado risk even for these southern sections too that could expand. They mentioned in the Storm Prediction Center discussion that this could uptrend to a moderate risk. Okay, so this is a big deal. I mean, and you have a huge area to watch out for hail too. A 30% risk of hail pushing 1 inch or diameter or larger in this red area. And the 10% chance of a hatched up 2 inch or diameter or larger. Okay, and then look at the wind threat tomorrow. And like I said, we'll talk about more sections to the southwest too. But you have a wind threat also for these regions. 30% chance of winds pushing 50 knots or higher, 55 to 60 miles per hour. And this includes, big cities like Nashville, Louisville, Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis, Cleveland. There's a chance that a pretty intense line of storms could develop somewhere in this region tomorrow. So really what's going into this is this fleeting low pressure and has a tail whipping low level flow to it, low level jet. So we'll stop it right here, and this is for Wednesday afternoon. You have a 50, 55, 60 knot low level jet in places over portions of the Midwest and Ohio Valley into getting in the Northeast, all the way up into the Great Lakes region of Michigan. Okay, how good of a low level flow do you have into Tennessee? I think it's good enough for a tornado threat. So you have a lot of what we call kinematics in play. And low pressure is a pretty favorable position for storms on the southeast quadrant of this. So I think it's going to be dangerous. Along with this, the thermodynamics you have in play is a lot of low-level moisture. Dew points will rise into the 60s as far north as Canada, areas of Canada. All the way up into Detroit, dew points will get into the 60s. Widespread dew points in the low 60s and mid 50s for this region. Deep moisture once you get into Tennessee. So that's a thermodynamic. A lot of surface moisture in play here. I'm telling you, I'm not going to call it, but I think Wednesday could be worse than today. And it's going to crank up as early as Wednesday morning. Okay. Quick snippet of what could potentially unfold. We'll start off Wednesday morning, and I know this does not include the entire risk area. I can hear you. I know. We're going to get zoned in, but it includes a large area of the risk. Start off Wednesday morning. Already some storms ongoing in Indiana. Some of these could be producing severe weather. But then watch as this line of storms develops right into here. In southern sections of Illinois, at this point, we're around 10 a.m. This begins to enter western Kentucky, starts to get into southern sections of Indiana. And this is what I worry for. You look at these supercells beginning to develop late morning and then rolling through, areas of Illinois. It's like the system really slows down and the storms refire up in eastern areas of Illinois. So you could be dealing with some late morning supercells, early afternoon supercells in Chicago that, you have the risk of a tornado. And then this continues, and how much of a sector develops right in here. These could be producing tornadoes around 1 p.m. and all of the southern half of Michigan. The ingredients are there, embedded tornadoes in this convection. You got this cluster of storms that could be producing some nasty weather, some damaging winds. And then we're getting into 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then some more storms will refire up. But what I worry for is this nasty line of storms that really begins to get going and riding the Indiana, Kentucky state line, then eventually makes its way into Ohio a little bit later tomorrow afternoon. And even some supercells down here developing into western Kentucky, even into western Tennessee. And I promise you guys, I will cover more of your area. I know I keep saying that, but a lot of people say, why did you not show this? Well, I'm really strapping for time. I'm already, I don't even know how long this video is right now, but 6 p.m., look at this line of storms blasting through Columbus and a good chunk of Ohio. Not only do you have a damaging wind threat with this, but you have a threat for embedded tornadoes. I know I got a lot of people that view from Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. Not trying to freak anybody out, but this has a chance to uptrend. And you see these little line of storms right into here that's in eastern Michigan. This looks like a line of semi-discrete supercells. So there'll be embedded spin-ups. There'll be a large hail threat too, but I'm telling you, damaging winds and tornadoes is going to be the biggest threat. This storm's continue to blast through Ohio. We'll see how much steam they have as they enter western areas of Pennsylvania. But I mean, even into the late evening hours tomorrow night, Kentucky will still have storms ongoing. Really, what's the issue with this and why we've uptrended into the next day is because the system is kind of slowed down. And I would not be surprised if Thursday uptrends to at minimum a slight risk for areas of the South. Right now, you just have a moderate risk, but I wouldn't be surprised one bit. The only thing that I would say that prevents severe weather outbreak for Thursday is just because the low pressure gets so far north into Canada. But the significant tornado parameter, I mean, it's picking up on that line of storms with the embedded tornado potential in this region. Okay, look at Kentucky, look at Tennessee tomorrow morning into early tomorrow afternoon, and then you have to watch these supercells that get going tomorrow afternoon and northern and northeastern sections of Illinois. But we'll break this down tonight. I know a lot of people will be tuning in to the people going live. There's a lot of great people who do that. Ryan Hall, I think Andy Hill's another new guy on the block that has gotten over 100,000 subscribers in like 2 weeks. But I'm not here to knock on anybody's success. I think that's great. I think we need more people in the weather community, as many people as possible. I know on YouTube, on Twitter, I always try to promote as many people's content as possible. And I just think that, we need to spread the awareness of weather a lot more. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. You guys have an awesome day. Please stay aware out there. Follow me on Twitter, guys. It's a great way to follow along. I'll be retweeting information. And y'all stay safe out there. Definitely praying for everybody. And God bless.